deep beneath the freezing murky waters of the North Sea, two research submersibles cut through the total darkness with blinding spotlights. What they found lying on the seabed wasn't a shipwreck or naval artifact, but proof of a world that shouldn't exist. Imagine walking all the way from London to Amsterdam, passing through dense forests, wide rivers, and endless green plains without ever stepping into a boat. 10,000 years ago, this was not an ocean. It was the rich, beating heart of Europe. So how did an entire lost continent vanish beneath the waves, taking its people with it? For centuries, sailors crossing the North Sea knew nothing about the world resting beneath their hulls. Then, in the early 20th century, Dutch fishermen hauled up something utterly baffling in their heavy trawling nets. It was not a rock. It was a massive, fossilized mammoth molar, perfectly preserved by the cold salt water. At first, people assumed these were just isolated remains of animals that had drowned at sea. But then came the human artifacts. Fishermen began pulling up carved antler harpoons, worked flint blades, and intricately carved bone needles. In 1931, a trawler hauled up a piece of peat moss containing a beautifully crafted bone spear point, proving humans had lived and hunted right here. This lost world was given a name by modern archaeologists, Doggerland, named after the shallow sandbank known as Doggerbank. To understand how Doggerland existed, we have to travel back 20,000 years to the height of the last ice age. At that time, so much of Earth water was locked up in massive continental glaciers that global sea levels were over 120 meters lower than today. The North Sea simply did not exist. Instead, a vast expanse of dry land linked Great Britain directly to mainland Europe. Doggerland was not just a narrow bridge that people crossed quickly. It was a vast, fertile continent, larger than modern Britain itself. Major modern European rivers like the Thames, the Rhine, and the Elbe did not empty into separate seas. They all flowed into one enormous river system across Doggerland. This made Doggerland perhaps the wealthiest region in all of prehistoric Europe for hunting and gathering. Enormous herds of woolly mammoths, giant elk with antlers 10 feet wide, and steppe bison roamed across its endless grassy plains. Apex predators like cave lions, wolves, and saber-toothed cats stalked these rich hunting grounds. For early human hunter-gatherers, this place was a true paradise on Earth. These were resilient Mesolithic humans living in small, close-knit communities along riverbanks and lake shores. They crafted specialized tools from flint, bone, and wood, tailoring their gear for every seasonal resource. In spring, they fished in freshwater lagoons using woven fish traps and slender wooden canoes carved from single tree trunks. In summer and autumn, families gathered wild hazelnuts, berries, and waterfowl eggs, storing surplus food for winter months. Archaeological discoveries show these people had sophisticated culture, art, and complex spiritual beliefs linked to their environment. For thousands of years, life in Doggerland was abundant, sustainable, and peaceful. But a quiet catastrophe was slowly unfolding. Around 15,000 years ago, Earth's climate began to warm rapidly as the Ice Age drew to a close. The gigantic ice sheets covering northern Europe and North America started to melt at an unprecedented rate. Trillions of gallons of fresh water poured directly into the oceans, causing global sea levels to rise year after year. At first, the encroaching sea was nearly invisible to human eyes, rising only a few inches during a person's lifetime. But because Doggerland was extraordinarily flat, even a small rise in sea level meant losing miles of coastline. Year after year, favorite hunting spots vanished beneath salty marshes, and freshwater lakes turned brackish. Generation after generation, human communities were forced to pack up their camps and move higher inland. What happens when the homeland you have known for thousands of years literally dissolves beneath your feet? By 8,500 years ago, the vast continent of Doggerland had been swallowed up into a shrinking archipelago of muddy islands. The highest region of the old continent remained above water, forming a large island that we now know as Dogger Bank. Here the remaining human inhabitants were squeezed into smaller spaces, cut off from mainland connections. They adapted as best as they could, relying more heavily on seals, fish, and seabirds for survival. Then came a sudden event, so apocalyptic that it wiped out whatever was left of Doggerland in a single day. 8,200 years ago, Off the coast of Norway, a colossal underwater cliff collapsed in a disaster known as the Storegga Slide. Over 3,000 cubic kilometers of rock and sediment tumbled down into the ocean deep, triggering a catastrophic mega tsunami. A wall of water up to 20 meters high slammed into the low-lying coastlines of Norway, Scotland, and the remaining islands of Doggerland. Imagine a roaring wall of icy ocean water racing inland across flat ground at hundreds of miles an hour. Any human settlements remaining on the low islands of Doggerland were completely overwhelmed within minutes. When the violent waters finally receded, the islands of Doggerland were gone, submerged forever beneath the cold North Sea. Great Britain was now permanently severed from continental Europe, transformed into an isolated island nation. For thousands of years, Doggerland remained a forgotten myth, buried under meters of sand, silt, and salt water. Until recently, when modern technology gave scientists the tools to map this lost Atlantis of the North. Oil and gas companies scanning the North Sea floor with advanced seismic sonar unintentionally mapped the topography of the lost continent. By analyzing seismic data, scientists bounced sound waves deep into the seabed sand to reconstruct buried landscapes. They discovered extinct river channels, ancient hilltops, and dried lake beds frozen in time beneath the seabed. Marine archaeologists began drilling core samples into the seafloor, putting up prehistoric soil, pollen, and tree bark. Analysis of ancient pollen showed that Doggerland was once dense with oak, hazel, and pine trees, teeming with life. Researchers even extracted environmental DNA from the ocean sediment, revealing exact species that roamed the area thousands of years ago. The story of Doggerland is more than just a fascinating chapter in deep history. It is a powerful reminder of how rapidly our planet environment can transform and how fragile human civilizations really are. The people of Doggerland were resourceful and adaptable, but when the sea rose, even their incredible ingenuity could not stop the tide. As we face rising sea levels today, the submerged world beneath the North Sea offers a haunting lesson from our distant past. What other lost worlds are lying completely hidden beneath the waves, just waiting to tell their forgotten story? Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe.